Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your old pal Brian Keene. Hello to all my patron subscribers. Uh, Back again for another live stream Q&A. While we wait for folks to come in, as we always do, I'll show off some cool things from our library. Tonight we're going with a Robert E. Howard theme because I don't think I've done that yet. Books that don't involve Conan the Barbarian or Kull the Slayer, Kull the Conqueror, whichever you want to call him. First up, one of my favorites, Almeric by Robert E. Howard. You got to look at this full dust jacket. Let me hold it up there so you can see it. This is one of my favorites. This was written very, very late in his career, probably at the urging of his agent. It is very much along the lines of Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter from Mars, where an Earthman gets transported to another planet, a savage planet, where he has to fight to survive. Just a really awesome book. And I should mention, all of these are Donald Grant editions. I know we talk a lot about Arkham House, but where the hell's the camera? There it is. Yeah, there's the Grant. But Donald Grant, back in the day, published books that I think are on par and sometimes better than a lot of the Arkham House stuff. So yeah, that's Almeric. This was Tigers of the Sea. These were stories about Cormac MacArt. Swashbuckling stories that he wrote. Again, let's give you a look at the full dust jacket. I'm sorry about the glare. The lighting in here sucks. What can I tell you? I do the best I can. I actually have the overhead light turned off. Marchers of Valhalla. This was a 2-novella collection published by Grant. And that was the cats knocking over boxes. So, by the way, I apologize. Well, you guys can't really see it. I don't see it on the camera. The office is a mess behind me. There's boxes everywhere. And yeah, that big crash was the cats climbing over them. But yeah, Marchers of Valhalla. This is 2 novellas. One was written fairly early in Howard's career. It's, an antediluvian period of prehistory. The other one, The Thunder Rider, was one of the last things he wrote. It's about an indigenous American warrior discovering a lost city. And, it's a horror story. It's good stuff. And finally, Worms of the Earth. Another one of my favorite Howard collections, the stories of Bran Mac Morn. We all talk about Conan the Barbarian these days, of course, and Kull the Conqueror and Solomon Kane, but Bran Mac Morn does not get enough love. He was a Pict, and Howard wrote those stories at a time when we didn't know a lot about the Picts. We still don't know a lot about the Picts compared to other ancient civilizations. But yeah, those stories kick ass. Also, bonus, here is some grave dirt from Robert E. Howard's grave. I did not visit there personally. This was given to me by young author Weil E. Young, who was also a big Robert E. Howard fan. So if you like my stuff, you like Robert E. Howard stuff, you would really like Weil E. Young's stuff. So if you haven't read them yet, give them a chance. I think you'd dig them. So anyway, cool stuff from the library. I see folks are starting to come in. So let's jump to the questions you posted this week. I'm going to read them in reverse, starting with Jim. Jim says, ever thought about doing a cape and tights superhero novel, either playing in someone else's sandbox or doing something entirely original? As far as playing in someone else's sandbox, no. I am done writing for Marvel and DC. I do not like the way I should clarify that. Marvel and DC have treated me fairly. But I do not like the way they treat other creators. Some creators who I look up to, who are far older than me. They're in their 70s and their 80s. I don't like the way they're being treated in the winter of their career. I don't like how some of my peers have been treated. Mary Sangiovanni, Weston Oaks, Rath, James White, Ronald Malfi, Edward Lee. A bunch of us did a graphic novel for DC that we're supposed to be getting royalties on. And to the best of my knowledge, none of those authors have gotten royalties on it, despite myself and another creator raising hell about it with DC many times. I love Marvel Comics and DC Comics, particularly the Bronze Age. And I love the people who work there. And I love these characters. But I don't love what has happened since DC was bought out by Time Warner and since Marvel was bought out by Disney, because now we're dealing with big corporations and big bean counters. And hang on, let me mute my phone. That's author Wesley Southard texting me something. Y'all go on Twitter and give him hell for interrupting our live stream. I don't like how these big corporations are treating creators. I don't like that every time I realize I'm overdue on royalties, I have to email somebody and remind them, hey, I wrote something for you. You owe me money. And then wait 6 months for them to go back through and verify, oh, yeah, we do owe them money. And they're doing that with everybody. I'm very small fucking potatoes, okay? I'm talking about some of the biggest names in the comic business have to chase down their royalty checks. And that's bullshit. That's not right. They're making billions upon billions of dollars in bank on these movies, featuring stories and characters that were written by other people. People deserve to be paid. So no, Jim, I do not think I would ever do a superhero thing with somebody else's sandbox. As far as something original, nah. I mean, if I was going to do a superhero novel, it would probably be something like The Boys or something like V for Vendetta, or maybe something like Unbreakable. And all three of those things exist, and I couldn't do them any better than they've been done. So, nah, I don't see a point in doing it. But good question, though. Next question comes from Henry. Henry asks, with teeth made vampires cool again, is there any other monster you'd like to take on next? Hint, hint, like werewolves. Henry, this year, I have been doing this for 25 years, hard as that is to believe. And for at least 20 of those 25 years, people have asked me, when are you going to do a werewolf novel? I would love to do a werewolf novel. The problem is I don't have a good idea for werewolves. It's kind of like my answer to Jim. The only good idea I can come up with is something that Alan Moore already did in the pages of Swamp Thing. And he did it in 22 pages. It's one of the best werewolf stories ever written. And I don't think I could do it any better. I don't think I could do anything better than Alan Moore. It took me years and years between my short story Down Under, which was a vampire story, and With Teeth. I mean, there's a span of 20 years between those. And it took that long to get another idea for vampires. Am I saying no, I wouldn't do a werewolf novel? I would love to. I'd love to do a werewolf novel. I just don't have the idea yet. But as far as any other monsters I'd like to take on, I love what Weston Oaks and I are doing. And Weston is in the chat. Hello there, Weston. I'm going to throw you up on screen. Hey, handsome yourself. Weston and I are doing a kaiju novel on Patreon, Monsters of Saipan, which we're going to get back to very soon. We got off track. Weston had some health stuff come up. Then I had some health stuff come up. Now we're both kind of back on track. And I suspect, Weston, correct me if I'm wrong in chat, but I suspect probably right around the new year, we'll get back to that full force, right? I think it's your turn to write a chapter. Hint, hint. I like that we're playing with kaiju. Hang on. Weston says starting January 1st. There we go. I like that we're playing with kaiju. I've always wanted to do a giant monster novel. Now, I did a short story out past the end of the boardwalk where the ocean meets the sky. You know, that is absolutely a giant monster story. It's basically what if Hedorah, the smog monster, existed in the real world. And spoiler alert for those of you who haven't read it, the protagonist is dealing with Alzheimer's, and he's not sure if the monster is real or if he's imagining it. But either way, he decides he's gonna swim out there and find out. Weston and I, Monsters of Seipan, they are baby kaiju, but maybe an adult kaiju will show up before the end of the novel. I don't know, because we're kind of pantsing it. But yeah, I'd love to do like a serious giant monster novel, just like play it straight. There used to be an author, he doesn't write a lot anymore. William Scholl, Schoell. If you guys can track down some of his old novels, like Dragon in particular, but he did another giant monster novel, Saurian, it's called, Saurin. Rian, William J. Scholl. He did really excellent giant monster novels back in the late 80s, early 90s, played them straight. They weren't written for laughs. Basically, what if Godzilla came? But they're really, really good. Track those down. You can probably find them cheap at a used bookstore. I don't think Valancourt has gotten around to reprinting either of those. He did some other great horror novels too, but those two were always my favorites. Other monsters, nah, not really. I mean, I've got an unfinished Chupacabra novel, and it will remain unfinished because it's terrible. It was pre The Rising. It's one of those practice novels that you write. J.F. Gonzalez has seen it. Mary has seen it, but no one else will probably ever see it. But yeah, I guess giant monsters definitely. But one of these days, if I get an idea for werewolves, I promise you I will write one. All right, we get to the last question on Patreon. So if you guys have questions, of course, put them in the chat. And if not, then, this will be short and sweet and we'll get on with it. I'll get on with my night, Knob Creek, and you can get on with yours. Efren says, can you share more dates and locations of me and Mary's honeymoon tour? I can tell you states that we've confirmed. How about that? And this is in no particular order, but it's just as I think of them. California, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Kentucky, Illinois. That's what we've lined up so far. At least one signing in each of those states. Most of those states have 3 signings. And we intend to hit a lot more states as well. This is early stages effort. But yeah, our wedding date is May 27th. We're going to hit the road before that because Mary's novel Alien, Enemy of My Enemy, comes out in late February, and the trade paperback edition of Things Left Behind by both of us comes out right around then as well. So we're going to hit the road actually before we get married. But yeah, in talking about it, I don't know if I mentioned this on last week's live stream or not. We wanted to go to Easter Island for our honeymoon. Well, then some assholes set Easter Island on fire. Now, this is how bad the world is. Easter Island caught on fire, and it barely made the news. You probably didn't even hear about this. Some assholes were camping, illegally camping, had an illegal campfire going, and it got out of control. And it damaged all of the statues on Easter, like all the famous fucking statues that have stood there through the rise and fall of civilizations, through the rise and fall of oceans. Those statues have stood the test of time until a bunch of hipster douchebags light a fire and it gets out of control. And now the statues are like all blackened and they're cracked. And it's like, well, fuck it. There's nothing else to do on Easter Island. And now we can't see the statues because they're closed to the public. So then we started talking about honeymooning in Alaska. And then Mary said we should do a book signing while we're there. And I said, yeah. And I said, maybe we could do one in Seattle too, because I'm sure we'll, go to Alaska via Seattle. And then that kind of turned into, maybe we should just do a book signing tour for our honeymoon. So that's what we're doing. We've talked about maybe renting an RV, but I don't think we're going to go that route. I think we're going to do this in stages, with this big house and 5 cats, and all the deer out back that I'm responsible for now. I don't see that we can go on the road for half a year in an RV and have my sons and their mothers and Mary's daughter and John Urbansick be responsible for taking care of everything and feeding the cats. That's not fair to any of them. They all have their own lives. So I think what we'll do is probably, go out for a week, come home, go out for a week, come home, go out for a week, come home. But yeah, those states are all definite so far, and there will be more. We'll announce them probably end of January. We'll start putting the dates up. So, all right, let's go to your questions. Jim says, if I'm allowed a second question tonight, is there a question you wish people would ask, but they never do? You know what? No, not really. Not that at least not that I can think of. Not that I can think of. There's some questions I would not mind never getting again, but there's not one that I can think of that I wish people would ask, but they never do. Ryan says, I hope this is not a dumb question. Ryan, there is no such thing as a dumb question, at least on this live stream, to ask you, but do you know if there's something going on with Deadite Press? I mean, I'm not going to talk out of school. Rose O'Keefe, who runs Deadite Press, she's one of my oldest friends in this business, and I adore her. So I'm not going to talk out of school. I know that, when they lost Jeff Burke, they paused everything to reorganize as a company, and then the pandemic hit, and the pandemic was very, very hard on Rose. I do know that they just signed John Urbansick to a novel. I believe that comes out in June, and I think they're publishing a novel by Asher Ellis. So they are still publishing, but clearly, obviously, the elephant in the room, they're publishing a lot less. Now, some of that is just perception. J.F. Gonzalez's books, the rights have all been returned back to his estate. So obviously they're not publishing the Clickers books or any of his collaborations with Wrath or any of his solo stuff. And me having launched my own publishing company, Manhattan on Mars, I'm slowly, very slowly, starting to take my rights back per book. And I'm doing it slowly by design. I don't want to bone Rose and Deadite Press and suddenly yank all my titles. That's not financially beneficial to anybody, including me, and certainly not to her. But so, you may be seeing some of the backlist constricting a little bit. And that can add to the illusion that there's not a lot out there. But, I think Rose, if you asked her this question publicly, I think she'd admit, they slacked off on publishing during the pandemic. But there is stuff in the pipeline. As far as I know, they're healthy and still publishing. I still get paid every month. I get paid on time. Rose is always there if I have a question. I have zero complaints about Deadite Press. But yeah, you said some of the books appear difficult to find right now. I think, maybe, hopefully I answered that for you. Like I said, some are going out of print. And the other thing is, with Ingram and Amazon and the paper shortage, a lot of print on demand books, which their books are done as, there are long production times for those right now. It used to be you just pressed a button and bam, the book appeared, and it's not working like that anymore. I know a couple months ago, the Rising, they had to print up a whole bunch more copies of the Rising for Amazon because there weren't any in stock and there was a delay on getting them. So yeah, there's a lot going on, but no, I think they're fine. I think just changes in the wind. They're changing, they're reorganizing. But like I said, I know they got a new book from Asher Ellis coming out. They're doing John Urbansik's new novel, which I've read, and it's fucking fantastic. So patience, I guess. Good question, and thanks for asking it, Ryan. Wait, I think I hit the wrong thing. Well, yeah, Weston, of course we're going to stay at your house. We're using your house as home base. Austin says, I've just started Curse of the Bastards and I absolutely love this Rogan trilogy with Stephen L. Shrewsbury. How did your collaboration come about? Great question, Austin. I'm old friends with Steve, just like I am with Weston. And, he had done some solo stories with Rogan, and he had done an entire novel with Rogan called Thoroughbred. And, I loved the character, and I said, he knew that I loved the character. And I said something to him one day, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it was, we never get to see stories of Conan or Kull when they're old, when they've got arthritis, when the toll of all those fights and all those adventures and all those wounds have added up on them. And, it hurts to get out of bed. It hurts to do a live stream. As we're talking, you can't see my hands. They're down here rubbing my feet because my fucking feet hurt. And he said, well, we should do that with Rogan. And I said, all right, yeah, if you want me to collaborate with you, I will. I love the character. So that was how it came about. We had originally said we're going to do King of the Bastards, and that'll be it. And then we kind of left King of the Bastards not on a cliffhanger, but clearly open-ended. And we had fun doing that book, and it sold very well. It's one of our most popular. So it's certainly one of Steve's best-selling books, and for my non-horror stuff, my best-selling book. It won a major literary award, so we'd been really stupid not to follow it up. So we did. We followed it up with Throne, and then I thought that was it. And then Shrews and Apex said, well, it's a fantasy, so you really ought to make it a trilogy. So Shrews came up with the idea for Curse of the Bastards. I know he's working on a new solo Rogan novel set many years before when Rogan's younger. And I know he's talking about bringing Thoroughbred back into print. Would I ever return to the character after those 3 books? No, I don't think I would. I think it would have to be a very special reason. Like I said, I love the character and I love writing with Shrews, but at the end of the day, those are his toys. And with each one of those books, I grew more and more paranoid that I was going to break his toys. And I don't want to do that, if that makes sense. So, I think you'll see more from the characters, but I'll be one of the folks reading them. I was just concerned because some of your titles I have ebooks, but I'm trying to get physical copies like Earthworm Gods. They should be available. You know what? Let's take a look here while we're live. I'm going to briankeene.com. I'm clicking store. And all right, let's check Earthworm Gods. Yep, you're right. It is used on Amazon. And there you go. Barnes & Noble has it new, Ryan. So you can go to Barnes & Noble. Books A Million has it new. Waterstones has it new. So yeah, in this case, that is an Amazon problem. That is probably due to the paper shortage and everything else that's going on. But yeah, Earthworm Gods still in print, still available, just not on Amazon. But make it easy for you. Go to briankeene.com, click store, scroll down to Earthworm Gods, and I've got the Barnes & Noble link right there, the Books A Million link right there. So hopefully that'll help you out. So, all right, let's see if we got any more questions. I don't see any. So, all right, I appreciate it, guys. You know what? I'll give you time for one last round of questions in the time it takes to take a sip of Knob Creek. Nope. All right. As I say every week, I appreciate you, each and every one of you that subscribes to my Patreon. I think I put the numbers in my newsletter. If not, Mary and I pay $1,700 a month for this house, and Patron pays 3/4 of that. So you guys are literally providing us with a roof over our heads, and we appreciate it. I like that you're there every day, and I know I have to get up and write for you every day. It's good for me. It's good for me mentally. It's good for me emotionally. And I really, really appreciate you guys. And I'm glad you're here. And I hope you'll stick around. Tomorrow, we get back to Splintered, the Labyrinth Book 3. I hope you are enjoying that and having as much fun reading it as I am writing it. I haven't had this much fun with a book since The Complex. And we haven't even gotten to the good stuff. If you just read yesterday's chapter, then you see all hell is literally about to break loose. That's just a precursor to what's going to happen later in the book. It's really going to get insane. So anyway, thanks again, and we will see you next week.